What is up, guys? This is Max Code 4, and today we'll be covering handheld anti-tank weapons. Alright, first thing we're going to be starting off with is a good old flamer. As you can see, this guy looks pretty badass. It's a German flamethrower. A lot of people don't know, but flamethrowers are actually very effective anti-tank in this game. I've actually ambushed the IS-2 like this one before. All you need to do... Oh, looks like we're clipping through the ground a little bit. But all you need to do is simply control your little dude. Aim for the back of the tank. Aim for the engine. Once you get a couple hits in there, you just have to wait for the actual engine to catch on fire. As you can see, it can take a little bit of... But once you get the whole tank lit, seeing as this tank is lit right now, then the tank is kaput. It's completely, it's broken. So as soon as the engine goes off on any tank, it's going to be down for the count. Now the Soviet flamethrower actually has longer range than the German one by 10 meters. So just keep that in mind when you're using it. Also, very good to use versus open-top vehicles such as this. You can clear out the inhabitants real quick, and you can also steal the vehicle if you don't burn it too long. If you burn it too long, then obviously it's going to catch on fire and it's going to cook off. Let's get this guy to safety a little bit. But those are flamethrowers. Make sure you guys are using those. They're very effective. If you just shoot at the... If I just use my flamethrower in the front of the tank, it's not really going to do shit. So make sure you're actually aiming on the back of the tank with your flamethrowers. Next, we're going to be going over the different anti-tank grenades. So there's quite a bit of different ones. So one that the Russians use quite a bit, and the finish is the Molotov cocktail. As you can see, the Molotov cocktail, it's just like a fiery explosion. It can be used to take out crews inside things like this. Or actually, I think that one might have done a little bit too much damage. But as you can see, it's very effective. Can take out the crews right off the rip. It can kill the tank as well. Next one we have is the German bundle grenade. It's just 6 hand grenades held together. Make sure you guys are aiming at the back of the engines. We have looks like we have Fallschirmjägers. And I don't know if they had an airborne or light anti-tank mine, but they have theirs as well. Every faction has its own anti-tank mines, or anti-tank grenades. The Americans actually use anti-tank mines that can be placed down as well as their anti-tank grenades. And then every vehicle you can grab out a satchel. Okay, so satchels are very effective. You can grab them out of the inventory of pretty much any vehicle that's like armor car and up. You can time it, and as you can see, this thing is very effective. You definitely want to land on the back of the vehicle to be most effective, because that's going to kill the engine and do the most damage. Now you can see this vehicle is going to be still repairable, I think, but it's pretty messed up. The engine looks like it's completely destroyed, and a lot of times you can track the tank like this. Once again, use all these light anti-tank grenades. Make sure you're getting behind the vehicle. Next, we're going to go into anti-tank rifle grenades. So first we have is the one used by the Soviets. So this one has, let's go take a look at the notes real quick. Soviets has 35 millimeters of penetration all the way out, range of 60. Soviets really only used this in the early war before they had really good anti-tank rifles, which they had the best anti-tank rifles at the end. But there wasn't that many of these actually used, and the effectiveness wasn't the best. As you can see, this one did manage to take out that tank. So they can be very effective at close range. Up to 60 meters away, you do some serious damage with this. Only 35 millimeters of damage though. Next we have the German one. The early war one has the same thing. It's only the early war one only has 35 millimeters of penetration, but both the mid-war and the late war German one has 70 millimeters of penetration. All of them are going to be the same range. This is the early war one. All of them are going to be 60 millimeters. As you can see, the good old Panzer I can still be threatened by these anti-tank rifle grenades, so it's pretty effective. Jiminy Christmas, that Su-76 just cooked off. Moving into the Americans. So the Americans actually, they produced the most anti-tank grenades, followed quickly by the Germans, but quickly moved on to the bazooka. Theirs actually have 51 in the mid-wars when they can produce theirs. And then their late war ones have 76. So a little bit better than the German rifle grenades in the late war. So Americans probably have the best rifle grenades. Just so you guys know, you can take out pretty much all light tanks and just light vehicles with these anti-tank grenades. I wouldn't be trying to use them versus anything else. Every single one of these have a range of 60 meters though, so it's like kind of like your mid-range. Okay, so these are very up close, a little bit further, and then these guys are just a little bit further. So basically at like 10 to 20 meters with these anti-tank grenades. Then we have 40 with the flamethrowers, and we have 60 with all the anti-tank grenades. I recommend using these guys for early war. You have a guy hiding in a bush, and a light vehicle tries to sneak up, have him on hold fire, and then bam, take him out. Same thing with these guys. Hide guy in the bush. Even better if you can get him inside a building, inside a room. Just hide him. Tank comes out, you run out, and you just take that thing out. As you can see, anti-tank satchel. Bam, engine taken out. You can really just mess these vehicles up if they push vehicles too aggressively. Next, we'll be moving on to the more important ones. So Finland actually uses the Boys AT rifle, which is a United Kingdom produced weapon. About 100 to 200 were sent to them during the Winter War. They weren't used in the Winter War; they're a little too late. But in the continuation war, they actually used against the Soviets. Now this rifle isn't that bad, but it is actually the worst of the AT rifles. It has a maximum penetration of 24 millimeters up close, and at max range is 15 millimeter. As you can see, it's more than enough to take out this huge half track, but it's going to struggle versus pretty much these medium tanks. Unless, I mean, this is an early war tank. This is like one of the earliest versions of the Panzer III, and still you can see that it is really struggling to penetrate. Panzer II is going to be no problem. About 62,000 these were made. The maximum effective range was 300 meters. And this game, all AT rifles have a range of 120, just for balance sake. But it was kind of the worst AT rifle though of the war, or one of them for sure. It was used really good in early war and in North Africa, but after that, it was kind of phased out once the British got the Piats and the Americans had the bazookas. But 62,000, so there's quite a bit of these guys made. And Finland made good use of them, especially in this game. Next we have is the German. It's the Panzerbuch 39. So obviously 39 was the year it was developed and made. So this bad boy, there about 39,000 of these were made. So maybe that's what they knew that they were going to make 39,000 of them. But the penetration's a little bit better. Has 32 at close range and 16 at max range. So it's about the same at max range as the Boys AT rifle, but it is a little bit better overall. So just be aware of that. The AT rifles are basically going to be good for sniping actually crew members. They're not going to be great for killing the tanks, but sniping out crew members. Next we have the Soviet PTRD-41 and then the PTRS-41. So the only difference between these bad boys really is this one is single action and this one is semi-automatic. So these things are pretty bulky, hard to move around, but the Soviets made extensive use of these because they didn't really have anti-tank missiles like bazookas and shit until later war, or when the American shipments started coming in. So these ones have the same range, but they have 24 millimeters of penetration at max range, which is more than the Boys AT rifle, or the exact same at the Boys AT rifle up close. And then they have 24 millimeters of penetration. 42 millimeters of penetration at the long range. So these ones can actually threaten medium tanks from the sides. So these are pretty effective, as you can see. It can find weak spots on the Panzer IIIs, which is one of the heavier tanks that the Germans will have in the early war. So these things didn't really start coming out mass produced until about 42. They started being produced in 41 and through 45. About 500,000 of these bolt action ones were made, and 400,000 of the PTRS, which are the. Did we select the wrong guy? Yeah, we selected the wrong guy. The PTR. Where's he at? He's hiding in plain sight. Oh, we got both TRDs, but the PTRS is just a semi-automatic version of this, and 400,000 of those bad boys were made. When the Soviets call in their AT squads, they'll have these guys in multiplayer and in Conquest. PTRS only have on some of the squads, and they were kind of taken away from multiplayer as the AT calling because they're a little bit better, and they're pretty awesome. Early war, you'll be relying on AT grenades though, so make sure you use these guys to snipe out vehicles, and they're really good for taking out armored cars or half tracks or anything like that. But 120 is their range, so just keep that in mind. They can actually be very effective at taking out enemy infantry as well. Like that guy just got yoinked. A one-shot most infantry. Next we'll move into the Panzerfausts. The Panzerfaust, they come in 3 different versions. So There's actually the Flamethrowers, which is the early version, and there's some units I think that have them. I'm not sure who, but the Panzerfaust in all versions that were made of it, about a little bit over 8 million of these were made. So these were extremely mass produced by Germany, especially in the late war. They were produced from 1943 to 1945. They came in the Panzerfaust 30, 60, 100, 150, and 250, and all the names just stood for the maximum effective range. So in real life, the first version only had 140 millimeters of penetration, which is still quite a bit. In 1943, the later versions 60 and 100 had 200 and 220 millimeters, respectively, and then the latest versions had about 280 and 300 millimeters. So there's nothing that they couldn't penetrate. Even the Churchills weren't safe anymore, but those were limited numbers produced. So in the actual game, they all have the maximum penetration of 200 millimeters, which is more than enough to get through an IS-2 1945, which is just goes to show that this thing is super awesome. It's a single-use anti-tank, and the Panzerfaust 30 has 30 millimeters range. Panzerfaust 60 has 40 millimeters range, and the Panzerfaust 100 has 50 meters range. So it just makes it a little bit more balanced per se. So just be aware that they're not exactly historical, but they were first used on the Eastern Front, and obviously they're very effective because you can give someone with one of these and you don't have to give much training. A lot of the Volkssturm had these bad boys because they're cheap, and just put a guy in a building or hide him in a bush in this case, have him hold fire, T-34 comes by, and bam, dead T-34. Pretty dang effective. So next we go to the bazookas. The nice bazookas. So the Americans have the first version, M1A1, and then they have the later versions that came out, which this one says M1A1, but the M9A1 was the later versions. So the first versions are going to be only having 88 millimeters of penetration. These are the mid-war ones. 88, they're going to be like 82 to 88. And they're obviously going to struggle with these heavier tanks, but versus like Panzer IIIs, it's not going to have a problem. And these things have 70 millimeters. It's 70 meters range. So this thing's going to be highly effective. The Americans have the best AT in mid-war because they're the only ones that have rocket launchers in mid-war, which is pretty sick if you didn't know that. But they do lack anti-tank rifles, so this kind of makes them shine. Late war, we got the Screaming Eagle 101, dude. And as you can see, they get a little bit better penetration. They have 102, so you're gonna struggle to penetrate these tanks in some places. But as you can see, you get a little nice shot on the good old Yak Panther. It's going to struggle a little bit more than the German counterpart will, but they're still super effective. Now, about 500,000 of these bad boys were produced in all versions, so there is quite a bit of these guys on the front. Not as much as Panzerfaust, but they are still pretty popular, and they're main weapon to be used for killing tanks. They weighed about 12 pounds while loaded, so they weren't super heavy to carry. If you're carrying a carbine or M1 Garand as well, and let's see. Real life, the first versions had about 100 millimeters of penetration, and the later versions had 152. So they were a little bit better in real life. And max range was about 140 millimeters. It wasn't as far as the Panzerschreck, but the bazooka came first. So, and it's very effective versus vehicles, as you can see. Last but not least, we have the Beast, which is the Panzerschreck RPZB-54. There's a 43 version too, which is just without a shield. But as you can see, this thing's a lot more bulky. Weighs 24 pounds while loaded, so it's a little bit heavier and more awkward to carry. But it is 88 millimeters, while the bazooka is only 60 millimeters, so it's a lot bigger, as you can see. And it has 185 millimeters of penetration, which is pretty accurate to what it was. It was about 160 to 200, or 160 with the early version and 200 with the late version. So pretty accurate. And this thing is not going to struggle versus anything. Yak Panther is captured, no problem. That thing is going to be getting taken out right away. This thing is literally a beast. Had a little bit longer range than the bazooka in real life, but it was heavier. Only 289,000 were produced, so not about half of what the bazookas were produced. But these the Germans actually took the bazookas that they captured from North Africa and they studied them, and as the Germans do quite a bit in World War II, is they over-engineered it and created a better version. But they only produced half as many, so that just sums up the German army as a whole. But these things are very, very effective. Make sure you use these to take out the biggest vehicles problems that you have. Not gonna have any problem taking these guys out. And 70 meters range just means you can actually reach out and touch tanks that are being pesky. And its accuracy is not bad. And this guy even comes with an AT grenade in case you run out of stuff. But just to overview, your longest range guys are going to be all these. Oh my gosh, I got them mixed up. All these anti-tank rifles. All the anti-tank rifles are going to be your longest range dudes, followed with 120 as a range. And next will be followed by the good old rifle grenades. Then Panzerfausts. Panzerfaust, where my Panzerfaust already fired, but the longest range one is 50 meters, and then 40, 30. Moving in, we have Flamethrowers, which you can't forget about using the Flamethrowers because these things are super effective about taking out tanks if you can get a nice ambush in. In urban maps, it's it's pretty easy to get the ambush in on these tanks. You get behind them. I got ambush. You guys look at my shorts. I got ambush on one of my shorts where I ambushed Panzerjäger with a flamethrower, killed the crew, and then killed the vehicle with the AT grenade. And then if you look at my other videos, there's another video of me killing an IS-2, which is pretty sick. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. And make sure you guys comment below what videos and what guides you'd like to see in the future. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.